Welcome to Unwrapped, the B Corp Spotlight series, where we invite people from B Corp brands to answer some of the most frequently asked B Corp questions. I'm Katie, your host, and today I'm pleased to welcome Sarah Holdeman from the Impact Collective. It's great to have you here, Sarah.
I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. So we're going to get straight into it. Your question today, Sarah, that you've kindly volunteered to answer for us is, why do companies get B Corp certified?
Yes, thank you for asking. So in thinking about how to answer this question, I think there's sort of two levels to it. There's a high level sort of, 30,000 foot view, and then there's a tactical answer. High level, I think companies get B Corp certified because they believe business can and should be done differently. I know in my experience, kind of trying to navigate corporate world, startups, all this stuff, like little things would kind of stick in my heart, and go, I don't know, I guess that's the status quo. I guess that's how we're supposed to do things. And I think B Corps believe that it can be done differently and that it can be profitable to put people and planet first. And so I think on the tactical side, if you think about all of the stakeholders involved in a business, conscious consumerism. Consumers are demanding more from brands. There is more information available at in your hand that there has ever been. And so researching brands, sort of, calling BS on things, impact washing, greenwashing, there is a desire from consumers for a higher level of accountability. And another thing is employees. If we think about the next generation of employees who are coming up, who are demanding more from employers, who are demanding more work-life balance, more purpose. I forget, I'll mess up the stats, but I read an article recently that Gen Z, 47% of Gen Z, is looking for purpose first. Obviously, they're looking for benefits and pay, and purpose is not a reason to pay people less. But they're looking for purpose. And so all of those things, it just makes good business sense to kind of carry business in the direction that it's already naturally evolving in.
That's such a great answer. And you used some really interesting words there, tactical. My mind went into sports and strategy and all of that kind of things. And in some ways, that is what business is, but it sounds difficult, right? Why would you make business harder for yourself? So why? And you have already answered why they get certified, but really why? Why as a business owner would I be inclined to make these difficult choices and choose to do something differently, because different is most of the time, or seems most of the time, harder?
Yeah. So I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to get around to it. So I used to work in early stage tech startups, and I used to listen to a podcast called How It Works all the time. And it told the stories of, founders and startups. And I loved that podcast, and I thought it was really great. And, but I really, it drove me really crazy because it seemed like they skipped over the messy middle. I was a young kid, with dreams to, sell shoes. And then I struggled to sell shoes, and now I'm selling 1 million shoes a day, and I'm like, wait, hold on. What happened in the middle? And I think that it's, for, to do business differently and to own a B Corp, I'm a B Corp owner. I can't not, right? I spent 10 years sort of doing business in the way that I was told it was supposed to be done. And I couldn't not. And I think tactically too, and that's sort of a little bit esoteric, it's high level, right? And it's also sort of, my dad thinks it's like hippy dippy. He got his MBA from, University of Chicago in the 80s, and was so excited when I got my MBA, and was really disappointed to hear I was getting a certificate in social innovation and social entrepreneurship. What is that? And I think really though, especially having taken so many people through the B Impact assessment, it's not harder. It's actually easier. It aligns your vision. And so at the Impact Collective, our mission is to empower whole humans and whole organizations to actualize their vision of a better world. And so many business owners have a vision of a better world. They're just not sure how to get there. That's what we do. That's what the B Impact Assessment helps you do. So, I would argue that it's, that it's actually not harder.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And actually, in some ways, I think once you start your journey into that world, even if you're just sort of scratching the surface and thinking about it, you'll find that it's very welcoming, and actually there's a whole that as B Lab grows, so too does the support and community that kind of wrap their arms around you in a way that as businesses at first can feel quite unusual, but in the best possible way.
Yeah. And I think that's another reason people get certified. So I'm in Portland, Oregon, in the Pacific Northwest. And so in Portland and Southwest Washington, there's 164 B Corps. I think 165 now. We got a couple new ones in the last couple of weeks. And the community is incredible. I'm also vice chair of the B Local PDX board. The Build B Corp Leadership Development Conference. We just had our B Bash last week, a big celebration of B Corps. There's such a vibrant community, and I know that I'm super, super lucky in this area, and it's not quite as robust everywhere. And also that in other areas, not only of the US, but of the world, there isn't quite such an embrace of B Corp values. A lot of people I've talked to in different states in the Midwest, in Florida, and, different areas experience pushback and experience, legislation against B Corp values, but not but, period, end of sentence. I can't imagine what that's like. And yet, I think people can find community as a B Corp that, is harder to achieve as a normal business.
You're absolutely right. Thanks for sharing that insight. I really appreciate it, Sarah. Thank you so much as well for joining us today. It really has been a pleasure talking to you about these subjects. And for those of you watching who want to find out more about the Impact Collective, you'll find all the links and the details that you need below. And finally, please, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to go and explore the rest, because we've got a whole series of really, really interesting conversations with other B Corp representatives. So thank you again, Sarah, for joining us today.
Thanks, Katie.